Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. I'm your host, Matt Tardio. Today, we're going to be talking about Kash Patel and the Senate confirmation hearing. And to say the cards were a little stacked against him, I think is an accurate statement. Here is why. Well, first, you know what? Let's open it up with this portion of the video.
So, Senator,
you think maybe you made the right people mad?
as my FBI agents, the BRIC agents told me when I was running cases with them across this country and around the world, if you're not ticking off some people, you're not doing your job right.
Well, that's a pretty accurate statement. He has ticked off a lot of people, and you're going to see some of them today on this episode because we're going to be going over some of the key takes out of the confirmation hearing. Interesting enough, he went in there with the cards stacked against him. When I say the cards were stacked against him, I mean it wholeheartedly. What you're looking at on your screen is a literal press release from the Senate majority, all right, which, by the way, is Democrat. And they put this entire thing together, and you see it right here. This is like a literal news article that they press released on him. It says, radical extremist Kash Patel would weaponize the FBI to target enemies of Trump. Well, no kidding. Is that what they think? Once we get a little bit deeper into this, what we're going to discover is quite a few things. I clicked, by the way, on all of their little, how do I want to say this, on all of their little links that they have in this. And then I dug through and I actually found the context behind what they were looking at. And some of these things are pretty interesting. Now, one of the things that they have on here, believe it or not, is a published list of 60 enemies of the state. And we're going to be pulling that up here in just a second. Now, included in this article down here towards the bottom says, don't just take it from us. Listen to the Republicans who worked with Kash Patel during the first Trump administration. They got Attorney General Barr, National Security Advisor John Bolton, Deputy National Security Advisor Charles Cooperman, CIA Director Gina Haspel, and Mark Esper, who was the former defense secretary. Now, interesting enough, using their list, we're actually able to identify a couple of these people. Here you can see Bill Barr. There's John Bolton. I'm sure I'm missing one or two over here. I think Comey, I don't remember if Comey was on the list. My head hurts right now from looking at them. Here's Miss Haspel. Now, what is this list? Well, this list actually came out of one of his books. All right. This is like Government Gangsters. And he ended up having this. He published this book back in 2022. This is appendix at the back of the book. And these are apparently people, members of the executive deep state branch. Well, that's interesting that he labeled them there when 4 out of 5 of these people that are on the Judiciary Committee's frickin' media posting happen to be on that list. Maybe he got it right. Let's find out. First up in the chute is Miss Klobuchar. I had to look down at the screen to try not to get Klobuchar? I can't even pronounce her dang name right. Anyways, listen to what she's saying here. She does take some things out of context, like incredibly out of context. And I've got the actual context for you using her source. So you're going to be able to hear that.
News Mafia press corps on your list. Is that correct? Is that what you said?
I don't have that in front of me.
Benny Johnson's podcast, 8/21/23. Did you say that the FBI headquarters should be shut down and reopened as a museum of the deep state?
He did say that.
Mr. Chairman, are we allowed to go an extra time?
Let's see. You get a second round. Before I call on Senator Lee.
Could he just answer the question if he said that the FBI headquarters, where they investigate cybercrime and terrorism, should be shut down and opened as a deep state?
Hey, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, he could say that, but it's as you sit there and you want your simple yes or no answer, he did say that. I've said a lot of things in my life too that I might not want to admit to at the, that particular hearing that he's taking place in. And there's a reason I wouldn't want to do it because the question that she asked has a very complicated answer. And that very complicated answer, like I said, goes back. He gives a really good frickin', how do I want to say this? He gives a really good explanation for why basically she needs to kiss off. And he doesn't have enough time to answer it. But here you've got the Benny Show. Benny actually introduced him all the way back in 2023, and she references it. She also talks about his list and several other things. Don't worry about it. Let's listen to the Benny Show and see what he actually said and why he was like, can I have some more time?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, we talk about stripping away the personnel at the top, the Rays, the Garlands, the Monicos. Okay, we've got that game plan. Then you put in people who are America First candidates and patriots. We've got those folks too. But it's not just personnel. And Benny, you know this. Whether it's the DOJ, the CIA, the NSA, the DOD, if you want to get rid of wokeness in the military, there's so many problems. Yes, it's personnel. It's not just top tier. It's the undersecretaries, the acting secretaries, the chiefs of staffs, the deputies, all the way down. And we have those positions. We have Americans of the 80 million that voted for Donald Trump. Yeah, we got them. What you need to do, though, is get Congress to budget annually against all of these deep state actors and zero out their billets forever. We need to shrink the size of government. And when we find out, like we are right now, that government gangsters like Wray and Garland have broken the law, we need to prosecute them. That DOJ and FBI must go after the people that set up this institution of criminality and allowed it to flourish under the Biden administration. And most importantly, we have to hunt down the people in the fake news media who made the deep state a reality. Because without them, there is no deep state. There is.
Wait a minute. Is he suggesting that the news media and the government happen to have some weird intertwining that's going on that puts out false information to Americans? Like, I don't know, maybe back on January 2nd, when the New York Post cited officials familiar with the matter who claimed that Matthew Leibelsberger's DNA test didn't match that of his child. Now, if you don't know who I'm talking about, that would be the Tesla Cybertruck bomber from Las Vegas on January 1st. New York Post came out with it, and then we ended up discovering the next day by Sean Ryan on January 3rd that it was actually the Army Chief of Staff's public affairs officer that leaked that out. Why do I know that's false information? Because I interviewed his wife and ended up discovering from her that on the night of January 1st, the FBI requested a blood draw of their child, a swab of their child so that they could do a DNA test, not a blood draw. That would be misinformation. It wasn't a blood draw, it was an oral swab to grab DNA. They had identified beyond the shadow of a doubt that it was, in fact, Matthew Leibelsberger's child. And yet they pushed a false narrative and said his wife had divorced him and that the DNA didn't, or it had pushed for a divorce, that they were broken up in a massive argument, and she had kicked him out before he left. And in addition to that, that the DNA didn't match. Well, turns out the DNA did match. You know how I know that? Because I was on the phone with her when she ended up calling the coroner's office to confirm it after that false information got put out. And the coroner said there was no doubt in her mind or anybody else's. She even went to the lab director and confirmed it. So yeah, American public, yeah, we think there might be an issue and we want somebody that also believes that to look into it, because at the minimum, at least those types of things will get taken care of.
There's no glorification of the left and their radical ideologies and the get Trump attitude. And so you need a strong FBI and DOJ, but you do need to go in there with the mindset of, yes, not that you're going to clean house and destroy the FBI and burn it to the ground, but you are going to take out its leadership cadre. You are going to shut down the Hoover building in downtown Washington, D.C. forever and send those 5,000 agents into the field to chase murderers and rapists and drug traffickers and child sex offenders. That's
the horror. Shut down the J. Edgar Hoover building and send those agents out to go chase down child sex traffickers. God forbid he suggests that.
That's what America wants. You're going to reopen the Hoover building the next day as the mausoleum of the deep state and allow every American to walk its halls for free. So we know what the enshrined entrenchment in D.C. does when it goes unchecked. But unless you have a Congress that is willing to get your back on the executive branch side of things and defund certain platforms and positions and fund special counsels or whatever you want to call them. I hate special counsels, but I'm just using that term because it's generic, to go after classified leaks, to go after the corrupt actors in government. That has to be a priority.
Weird. It's like he's suggesting things that the American people would actually want. Now, you might not agree with shutting down the J. Edgar Hoover building. That's fine. That's fine. And I'm sure they would erect a new one. But sending 5,000 agents to go after child sex traffickers, you would have thought that that woman would have at least included that for context. But she didn't. Now, all of these people are ridiculously scared. You know how I know they're scared? Because I know they're scared. Check this out.
In the collective, all of those statements are taken out of grotesque context. And anyone that thinks my 16 years of service isn't exemplary on how I would proceed if confirmed as FBI is intentionally putting false information into the public ether and creating more public discourse. The only thing that will matter if I'm confirmed as a director of the FBI is a de-weaponized, depoliticized system of law enforcement completely devoted to rigorous obedience of the Constitution and a singular standard of justice.
Oh man, that sounds pretty freaking scary. God forbid we have an FBI director actually do his job and enforce laws and make sure that everybody else is abiding by them. It's almost like we don't want a double standard for our politicians because we, as the citizens of the United States of America, sure as crap don't get it. Honestly, they should be asking questions to determine whether or not he's actually qualified. Now, his history actually happens to be, give me a second here, because it's pretty dang lengthy. So he did a good job in his career. He started off as a public defender in Florida. Then he served as a federal prosecutor for the U.S. Department of Justice. Then he went on to House Intelligence Committee, working kind of as a staffer for then Chairman Devin Nunes. He kind of progressed from there, went to the National Security Council, and worked as a senior director for counterterrorism. He moved up to the Director of National Intelligence Office, or the ODNI, and he served as the principal deputy to the acting director of National Intelligence. Wow. That's a pretty outstanding background. Maybe we should ask him questions that pertain to that. Then he moved up to the Department of Defense, and he was the chief of staffing to acting Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller. And those are just a few of the things that that man has done in his life. God forbid we ask questions about what it is he actually is competent in. Now, here's a clip from where he gets asked whether or not he's going to be able to go after Jeffrey Epstein's list and start attacking child sex traffickers, which we already know from the clip that I previously played, because that other senator decided to take everything out of context. We already know he's about that life. So are we going to get Epstein's list? You know, that thing that everybody in this country wants? Sounds like we will. Check this out.
Their questions, and it has led me to one thing. Why are the Democrats so afraid of you?
I don't know, Senator. You'd have to ask them.
Well, I tell you what I think. And listening to their questions and your responses, which we appreciate, they know that you're going to go in and you're going to clean up that political cabal that has been over there for years. You are going to reposition the FBI to its core mission.
Whoa.
You stated that earlier in this hearing, and there will be no more political persecution.
Okay, that's just her doing political talk. She's about to ask him whether or not she is going to go, like he is going to be good with the Epstein list and go after him. I'm going to save the time.
Yes, and I know that breaking up these trafficking rings is important to President Trump. So will you work with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America, and I will do everything, if confirmed as FBI director, to make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened in the past. And
what a radical thought. Not only is he going to work on cleaning out like the J. Edgar Hoover building so that we don't end up having like weird leaks to the chief of staff of the army and pushing a false narrative in the mainstream media that's just corrupting the youth's brain around this country. That's a wild concept. But what else would be great is if maybe we actually got our eyes on the Epstein list and we knew what POSs in this country actually were on it. Who went over to that island and started molesting little girls? That's what I want to know. I'm sure that's what you want to know. And I got a feeling that a lot of them are sitting in the room that he is right now, and they don't want that information to get out. Otherwise, what the hell do they have to be so afraid of? Because I haven't seen it yet. Have you? Now, I haven't gone through all of the questions that he got asked, but I did see a decent amount of them today and filed through a bunch of them trying to bring you guys like something intelligent that he ended up getting asked. Instead, we get crap like this. And again, this is a confirmation hearing.
Colleagues, I created a Kash bingo card
Oh, thank God.
that I have available to any of my colleagues who would like it on the other side of the aisle. Some may view this as an unserious caricature and not appropriate for this committee. Sadly, I consider it a serious caricature of what I expect to be witnessed today.
Uh-oh.
I think we'll have words like enemies list and deep state. I've already X'd out
God
4
forbid.
boxes in the opening statements alone. The fact of the matter is, some people
And I got to stop it there because the guy just kind of takes forever. You want to
We'll
take a
be
look at
here.
that? Oh, geez. Shush. You want to take a look at that list? I know I do. Here it is. Here's his bingo card of all of these scary words that may or may not have been thrown out today. Pam Bondi, QAnon, Dark Money, Steve Bannon, Enemies List, Mar-a-Lago, Bill Barr, Pardons, Retribution. God forbid those things are on there. True Social. Oh my God. Pedophile and cannibal. I hope the word pedophile comes up, and it is in the context of wanting to go after them. Wouldn't that be refreshing for a change? And why he's qualified to make sure the FBI starts getting these frickin' pedos off the street. What if it was something that was like even more sinister? Like, what if he actually knew what happened in the massive insurrection that took place on January 6th?
What were you doing on that day?
On that day specifically, responding to, preparing to mobilize and deploy the National Guard once we got the lawful request from the local governing authority, which was the mayor of D.C. and the Speaker of the House.
Oh, God, what a pile
Now,
of garbage.
how many days in advance were you working to prepare the Department of Defense to help secure the Capitol on January 6th?
Days in advance, Senator, we were in the Oval Office on an unrelated national security matter with the President of the United States, the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and myself. And the President authorized up to 20,000 plus National Guardsmen and women to secure any security measures necessary related to the Capitol. So we were moving to the fullest extent of the law before the requisite request came from a local governing authority days ahead of time.
So you mean to tell me that this guy, Kash Patel, was working to secure the Capitol long before January 6th, and yet people don't think he's qualified, and it's the same people that were complaining about it being a massive insurrection.
And while you were Chief of Staff at DOD, how many times did DOD approach Capitol Police and ask if they needed National Guard assistance?
I believe those letters are well documented, numerous instances, and numerous of those instances, those requests were shut down.
Weird.
Now, am I correct that the Capitol Sergeant at Arms said assistance was unnecessary?
That's correct, Senator.
Weird.
Who did the Sergeant at Arms report to?
The Speaker of the House.
Weird.
That would have been Nancy Pelosi at the time. Is that
Weird.
correct?
Yes, Senator.
And would that also be Chuck Schumer, then the Senate Majority Leader?
The Sergeant at Arms, yes, Senator, reports up there.
Did Mayor Bowser, the Democrat elected mayor in D.C., either request or allow National Guard assistance?
She put in writing on the days leading up to January 6th a declination for National Guard additional support.
Okay, so to be clear, not only did this man foresee issues that could have happened with the election, arrange the National Guard and everybody else to be prepared to be able to do it, but he also got turned down by the Sergeant at Arms at the House, who reports to Nancy Pelosi, and additionally, the DC mayor. It's almost like the entire thing is a set-up talking point because they knew that crap was going to go down and they just wanted to let it happen. How ridiculous is that? Ladies and gentlemen, this is appalling that anybody is going to lose their minds in that manner. I hate it so much. Why, oh, why can't we just get honest answers out of these people? Why can't they just ask appropriate questions for the man's role? Clearly, he's been through the ringer. He's got a lot of different crap that he's done in his day. ODNI, Office of the Director of National Intelligence, making sure that the National Guard was prepared for like what they say was one of the worst insurrection, like the insurrection. Like a violent overthrow of the government was attempted, according to them. And they're upset with this guy and they don't want him in? Pot, this is kettle. Holy freaking cow. They're just going to allow it to happen now? Do you not want somebody competent in office? This is why the American people are ticked off, ladies and gentlemen. If you agree with this message and you like what you saw today, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you haven't yet, you're missing out. Peace, love, happiness, and God bless. I'm out of here.